Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Where Is Your Heart, where we are championing vulnerability as a core human strength. This is going to be a very interesting show because Royce is experiencing this little airplane shortage. So he was supposed to be on a flight to Southwest, and they canceled 800 of them? 1,800 of them. So Royce is doing this literally on the road. So you may see him, and then you may not.
On tour.
So we're going to see how this goes.
We're going to call this "Where's Your Heart" on tour.
Only half of us on tour. Royce took a tour. And I'm dealing with the aftermath. Thanks, Royce. So everyone,
we're doing a show about motherhood. That's what it's about.
Oh, he's gonna go. Yeah, right? Talk about a mother.
Making up for the dude's fuck ups. That's
see, fuck up got in there. That's good.
I mean, what do you want?
Oh, well, everybody, welcome to tonight's episode. Oh my gosh, how much longer do you have till you're back in Albuquerque?
We're 86 miles west of Flagstaff.
Did you catch that, Royce? How much longer do you... Oh my. Yep. This whole show's being done on the road. Oh goodness.
I'm just pausing.
Okay. We're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right. And while I'm over here breathing, I'm just gonna take this moment to remind you guys that we are on YouTube looking for more subscribers because, you know, we like the love. So please, as you're watching this episode, would you please... Oh, look, this isn't working. Royce, my buttons aren't working.
All right. Now that's one thing.
So I don't know if anything's going to show tonight. There's a delay. He's now hearing you.
Oh
my gosh. Okay. I love live television. Okay. Let me try to click on this again. Wow. Okay. Hopefully the intro started and we didn't have that whole situation like last time where the people could just see us walking around on screen. There it goes. No, please like our page and subscribe and click the notification bell for updates. Oh my gosh. You know, if anything that motherhood teaches you is patience. Patience. So this is a right topic for today. Oh my goodness. This is going to be a really interesting show. So while there seems to be a delay. So if I hit gratitude right now, I'm sure it will probably come up in the next 3 minutes. But let's see, shall we? Nothing.
Me so for gratitude? Wait, is it my turn for gratitude?
Why? Why of all days? I had some great... Yeah. What's your gratitude?
Oh, okay.
And there it goes.
All right, is the delay just for me, or is the delay on the button?
This is going to be... No! I'm getting this delay too. Oh, great. I have a feeling that StreamYard is having the same... We had this problem actually last time. I have a feeling that we are going through a whole delay again. Thanks, StreamYard! So, yeah, we're talking gratitude right now, Royce, if you could hear me.
Apparently I can't.
And I guess I will start first because I got to think of something real positive right now. Real positive. So, my gratitude for today, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep going like it's nobody's business. Okay, so I'm actually going to give a shout out to my kids for my gratitude, specifically my daughter, Abby, who has been a real trooper with helping out around the house.
Yep. It's not like it's our connectivity as part of the issue, but then another chunk of it is problems with StreamYard.
Hi, y'all. So apparently, I just got a notification as I got kicked off from StreamYard that there's issues. So this is gonna be an interesting night. Okay, so before we
You're
go on,
crystal clear now.
yeah, I don't. I oh yeah, StreamYard just kicked me off.
Okay.
Continuing with the positivity right now. So I wanted to give a shout out to my daughter Abby, who has been helping me so much with what's going on here in the house. There's been a lot of changes with having 5 kids here on a regular basis, 3 of them under the age of 6. So it's been real interesting having to go through that process all over again. And she has been a real help helping out. So that's my gratitude for today. Having a teenage daughter to help around the house. That's my gratitude. How about you, Royce?
My gratitude is for a gem of a human being at the Hertz counter last night at 11 p.m. in Oakland. I think her name was Vernica, if I remember correctly. Bernice? With a V. Anyway, just like she was patient, like she was dealing with customer after customer from Southwest Air who was just like, so apparently flying is not a thing anymore, so we need to drive. And they were all sold out, and she managed to, well, she found a car for us and the people in front of us somehow. So,
Oh my gosh. Also, I
so
guess you
thank you,
should be
Bernice.
great. You should be grateful that there's cars. I like that there was also cars.
I may just say fuck travel for the next year because like I just this has been awful and I ended up missing another class today. But we're on gratitude, so I'm grateful for Bernice. That's it. There you go.
Yes, your school rant will have to happen another day.
Yes,
You'll have to do
the
this
rant
another day.
the rant will continue on TikTok.
Oh yay, Rush rants. Something is it's like a whole like what do they call those spin-off shows?
Yeah, I mean that's basically what I think the TikTok channel is being designed around the shit that that I'm like,
It's like oh nope, nope.
oh,
So yeah,
oh.
I love it. I love it. It's a whole spin-off thing. Okay. So hopefully everything is working hunky-dory now. It appears to be. So I'm gonna push this button over here to say that we're gonna talk about this week's topic. Anna Tubbs is an author who wrote an article for Time magazine opening up about the struggles of motherhood and how mothers find themselves getting lost in the shuffle when it comes to their needs and the children getting the praise. Needless to say, the article received some strong opposition from readers who felt that if you made the choice to be a mother, suck it up and do your job, but also caused others to say the narrative of a selfless mother needs to end. So we're excited to say we'll be speaking with Anna on a future show about the article in her new book, 3 Mothers, being released in January. But the topic did lead us to want to have a real discussion about what mothers go through, what they feel, just all of it, just all the everything it entails and the struggles they go through. So that is why we are here today. And like I said earlier, I feel Royce like I do, knowing your history, you had to juggle both sides
So
for a while.
I mean, so this one's an interesting one to me because like when our children were born, I was the dad who was like I was full time as a student and working 5 to 6 jobs because I was the sole provider for the family. So I was absent as hell. And then when I was home, I was typically trying to decompress and typically then played video games to just try to not fucking flip out because I was broken all the time. So I was the parent, I was that working outside the home parent who was too
Mm-hmm.
broken to really support my spouse emotionally,
Oh.
who did not spend enough time with my kids. So I definitely played a fucked up role there, right? So I've got that. And then on the other hand of it, partway through seminary, I transitioned into being the stay-at-home parent, which is what I always really wanted to do. I mean, that was always when my spouse, when the kids were being born, when she said she wanted to stay home with them, I was heartbroken because I really wanted to stay home with the kids. And so when I got to do that, like it flipped a lot and it was really interesting and I love it. And now I'm having trouble pulling away from it, even though the kids are moving out, right? Because there's an emotional, when we talk about the emotional support for the family system, there's a role there that gets played by the stay-at-home parent in a way that just it's really insidious and it becomes the identity. So you got all that shit going on, but I also we need to be really clear. Like, so okay, so I have some insights on that stuff, but I also don't walk through the world as a woman. So when I just like, no, I ain't gonna fucking tolerate that shit, I say that as a man, and I'm like, no, I'm not cooking dinner for you fuckers because y'all ain't cleaned the fucking table off, and I ain't gonna have that in front of the TV.
And it will definitely mention about the fact you just said, I won't tolerate that. I mean, oftentimes parents will. It becomes a whole catered to not have to deal with the stress of the whining and complaining. Just make it as easy as possible. So I think this is going to be a very interesting conversation. So tonight we have some mothers that are joining us.
Are you going to talk about your? Are you going to talk a little about?
Oh yeah.
Come on.
Oh yeah. I will. I will break that down. But I'm gonna go ahead and do the bios because I have no idea. The internet's all wonky. So and you're driving. Well, actually, you're not. You're sitting in posture. But because of that, I think I'll go ahead and read off the bios for tonight. So tonight we're excited to have 3 strong mothers with us this evening. First up, we got Liz Luna Rosa. She is glad to be back on the show. She joined us for one of our previous shows. Yeah. She's a full-time mom to 2 little dragons, a part-time hairstylist, and a burlesque singer. She's a fierce advocate for mental health care for all and works to destigmatize the conversation about mental illness, about being open about her own. She takes her takeaway for viewers that moms are humans and should not have to feel guilty to ask for help when they are struggling. So let's welcome Liz to the show. Hi. Hello. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Glad to have you back.
I'm happy to be here.
So
I love that you call your babies dragons.
Little dragons. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was the idiot that named my daughter Daenerys. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, oh man. She is every bit her namesake. That one is.
She's gonna have some interesting stories tonight.
Oh, yes, I will.
So our next guest is Shay Overton. Shay is from Albuquerque. She is most proud of defining the statistics that say she was not supposed to make it as far as she has. So we're going to welcome her to the show. Hey, Shay. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You should have introduced me first, though, because I was like, "Can I send a read?" Like, no, don't put that.
Honestly, I thought to myself, I was like, that should have been longer. So I'm going to give you this. What else would you like to say that was not in this bio?
Oh, but you put me on blast as well. That's awkward. Yeah. That's when you should have been like, oh, well, I didn't know you were going to say it now. Like, I don't work well under pressure.
Okay, you think about that, and I will introduce the next guest.
I was like, diddle what Liz said, even though I don't have 2 children, like, all that stuff.
I'd just like you to know her son joined us for our episode on teenagers, handled that show as the only guest. You have an amazing son. Like,
I have some pressure now, though. Thank you.
You're welcome. So our last guest is Nikki, who was also part of our show. She was here for representation in film. One thing she is most proud of, outside of her kids, is always going to be her resilience and the woman she is becoming. Nikki is a resilience master and mom of 2 amazing adult children with unique needs always first and foremost. When she's not doing that, she's an author, a family relationship consultant, and coach. A guide for intuition psychic kids. Did I read that right? Interesting. She works with culturally diverse single parent and blended families to transform their roadblocks into stepping stones of harmonious connection. I love that. One takeaway: ditch the ego and give yourself freaking grace. So we welcome back Nikki to the show.
Hello. Hi. Yes, you read the guiding psychic kids right.
Interesting.
Kids. I was doing my psychic thing yesterday. That's why I have the beanie on, because I didn't have time to wash hair and do all that. So I'm like.
So just first, before we get started, I wanted to point out that Kelly is here, one of our regular viewers. She wanted to mention about the Where's Your Heart on tour. Maybe that needs to be a thing. Let's just go up to Carlsbad Kevin and see how well that does. We also she writes, chaos is here, adventure. That's what this whole night is so far. So let's continue.
That's
All
been
right,
an adventure. So
we'll give a shout out to Nicola with our mascot for this trip, which is a little baby redwood tree.
Oh, that's cute. She's our sponsor for the evening.
So cute.
I blame that entire thing on my co-conspirator over here.
Well, I think I want to start with the first question, because I think we're going to cover a lot of stuff this evening and let a lot of things be said. So the first thing I want to ask is, what is the biggest myth that you guys learned when you became a mother?
I will go. I know definitely one that just comes to the top of my head is the when they're crying, don't pick them up all the time, or you're going to spoil them. But if the child's crying and they don't know how to communicate any other way, yeah. So for me, I feel like it's a myth. Others may not agree, but
well, tonight is about talking your truth. We may have people that don't agree and people who do. That's
come for me. No, I'm just kidding.
So Liz, I do like yours. I like yours.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Sleep when the baby sleeps. That is bullshit. Such bullshit. Like, I barely slept as it was when they were infants. Like, and when they were sleeping, yeah, there was too much to do, because I'm a terrible housekeeper as it is. And I was just always struggling to just get shit done when they were napping.
Yep.
And then a lot of times I would mostly just end up sitting on the couch, staring off into empty space, waiting until they cried, telling me that they woke up from their nap. So
man, yeah, that whole zoned out moment.
Balance.
It's just you're always staring at a wall, like searching for something.
Yeah.
Because you're that tired. Yeah.
Or crying yourself, or was that just me?
Yes. No, yes. There was a lot of
crying.
Yes.
A lot of crying.
Yes. Lots of crying.
And you didn't know why. It could have been you just broke out. You had no idea why you were crying. You just knew you were feeling something and it had to be released.
Yep.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So what about you, Nikki?
I think the one, you're going to be so beautiful. What? I remember somebody coming to me and saying, you're going to be so beautiful. And when I was pregnant, I was not. And then afterward, I was even worse, because you can't take a shower. You can't do your hair. You can smell yourself like miles away. You're just sitting there with this kid. Braden was hard. My youngest was he was what they called at the time the typical autistic baby, which was he cried for hours, nonstop. stuck back, you know, and he's little, and I'm sitting there, and you have postpartum, and it's like, no, I'm not pretty at all. I'm exhausted. Like, where was this? I'm supposed to be beautiful now. And then when they would tell you, oh, it's because you didn't breastfeed.
Did somebody actually say that?
Yeah, someone actually said that. And I think when I had one
Did they survive?
Yeah. I'm like, what the? They were comparing because Jada Pinkett Smith had come on at that time and said how she had lost all her baby weight was because she was breastfeeding and it just dropped off and all that. And so I had elder women who had breastfed. Thank God I had my mom who, she was like, oh no, when they tried to get me to do that back in the day, that was the one hippie thing I was not going to do. I'd be damned if you were going to take my boobs. That was my asset. You're not going to suck the life out of those. And I'm like, so, you know, when we're in, the midwife comes in or whatever, and they're like, would you like to try? The lactation consultant came in, and my mom goes, no. She doesn't want that. Do you see the boobs she has? No. We don't do that. So then when my mother-in-law and like her family, they all breastfed, and they were like, oh, see, that's why. And they would tell my husband at the time, Father, she'd lose weight if, you know, she'd be a lot happier if she was breastfeeding. And I'm like, I don't think, are you high?
I don't really know if I believe, but then again, all my weight went to my chest. So, which is why when the time came, I got rid of some of that. It was just, it was bad. But I mean, yeah, I wish that was truth. I feel like that's that's a big myth. I feel like if you had that active kid that was always running around and catching them on counters and tables and beds and the bathroom sink and oh my God, my kids.
So there's that Cat Williams skit, right, where he's talking about his kid and how the kid's running all the time.
Yeah.
And the teacher says, well, we think he has ADHD, so we want to give him Ritalin. Here you go. And so the kid is like, all of a sudden he said, you know, I gave him his first pill and mid-run just dropped to the floor. And he was like, are you okay, son? What's wrong? And he said something like, he said, what are you doing? He said, I'm being behave like you wanted me to. And I just think about that. And I'm like, I had a client recently who the daughter was like that. She was climbing on stuff and jumping off, like she climbed on the dresser and jumped off into, and that mom mode kicks it. No. What are you doing?
Yeah. No.
Just let her do it. I don't know what to do. And I'm
like, what you do is tell her to sit down.
Like, that's not safe. The ceiling fan's right there, and she's trying to jump into the moving ceiling fan.
Oh my gosh. All my kids were different with their whole activity thing because my oldest was very much the I can keep him. He if he had a pen and paper and some crayons, he was good. Abby, the middle child, on the other hand, had this thing that she would. Oh, she knew she was doing it too. She would lean. She would sit on a recliner that we had on the arm of it, and lean back, and then pop back up like she was gonna fall over, but wouldn't. And look at me like. And I was just like, okay. So she kind of had that little daredevil. Now Frederick, being that he was born 3 months early, and there was some, development issues. One is that little thing in your brain that tells you when something is dangerous. Yeah, that hadn't developed yet. So he would go near the edge of those little openings at the playgrounds that have the slides. There's like the slide, and then there's that big opening for no reason whatsoever that, kids could fall right out of that little hole. Yeah, he would just go to that one and step off. Like, he was just like, oh, what's this? Fear, no fear of anything. So yeah, I was constantly that parent that was just like, oh my God, I'm gonna have a heart attack. This one's gonna give me a heart attack. He's gonna be the child that like join X Games and do every single freaking sport that's in that just so he could cause a heart attack. Like, But I love my children. I do, but
they always say that's the last one, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. And it is. It is. I remember the fear I had when I found out we were pregnant with him because my ex-husband and I decided we weren't going to have any more kids after the second child. Had a whole conversation about it, and then I found out I was pregnant as days later. So that conversation was moot. So yeah, we had him, and it just seems like he was that like surprise after surprise after surprise with him. But yeah, I was just like, yeah, this is it. I'm good. But my grandmother always told me, you never have more kids than you have hands. So when I found out I was pregnant, I was scared to death that my grandmother was going to beat me. But it all worked out well.
Like the second there's two of them, they outnumber you.
Exactly.
Like the three, it's just never even teams at that point. Like call in reinforcements.
The one thing I seem to notice about the three, and they all went through it, and I was talking to my friend about this earlier, is this need to be irritated about things that their siblings doing, but they did the same damn thing when they were their age. Like Frederick, now that there's little ones in the house, he'll be like, why does she have to do this? I'm like, why are you upset? You did the same thing when you were that age. And he look at me like, I just walk away. Like, I guess he forgot.
All right, so we do live in the age of the cell phone, though. Like, tell me you've got video of that shit.
Oh, God, I need to. Because it happens on a daily. It happens on a regular with him. There is always something new. But I watched all three of them do it. It was like, oh, okay, it's my turn. It's my turn to be the annoying sibling and watch as they get irritated and ask the question, why did they do that? So it seems to be around age, like he's 11 now. And I think like between the ages of 9 and 11 is when that question came about. So I found that real interesting. So we got BJ here. I have an all-natural supplement called EHT beryllium that works great. Is this for breastfeeding or ADHD? That's the one thing you got to let us know. What's that for? Just not wanting to kill your children? What is this for? Let us know. We got to know what that's for. I'm open to suggestions. I just need to know what it's for.
You still tell me how to get it.
Tell me how to get it so I don't want
to. Right.
So
for me?
And tell me whether it's for me or the kid.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. So question number 2. Why do you feel that mothers are made to be the sacrificial lamb in parenting? When it comes to parenthood, like we're just supposed to suffer.
Because we're the ones with the uterus.
We're expected to suffer.
Starts right there. And somehow, because the playing field is not level, because we get the extra 9 months with the kid, like everybody just assumes that.
Also, why do they call it 9 months? It is 10. Like, what doctor is like, we're going to trick them and we're going to say 9 months? I'm like, sucker, I know how to count. Like, they lied to us, guys. They're like, it's 9 months. Don't worry. I'm like, no, call it a year. It's a year.
Yeah.
You might as well be
40 weeks does not equal 9 months. Like,
oh man,
for me, I really believe that oh no,
you're on.
It's my internet. Oh, that is awkward. You guys like spit it out. So I was saying that I believe that whole I'm every woman mentality has been ingrained into our head as women.
Oh no, don't tell me we're gonna lose her, because that was good. We're waiting.
But also when they say that whole "you're a superwoman," do you ever, when people tell you that?
Yeah.
It's frustrating to hear that term. We actually did a whole show on the term of superwoman that I watched.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear. Yeah, there's a delay. And she's gone. I was like, I know that's gonna disappear, but yeah, she'll be right back. But yeah, we actually had a whole show on the whole topic of superwoman and that you have to live up to that standard, which is not a realistic standard.
Nope.
And it just causes so much freaking stress in the long run.
It's a fantasy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this topic, like this particular question, I think it's important for us to look at like cultural roots too, because like when we talk about the unholy fucking Roman Empire, that shit is woven through all of this. It's always so cool to be on the West Coast and to see pelicans, until I remember that pelicans were used as a like symbol in the early Roman church, because the mother pelican would literally peck parts of herself out to feed the birds. And that's like the notion of how we're supposed to be in Western civilization. And that whole thing gets concentrated on mothers. And it's total bullshit. But it's like it becomes this bastion of Christianity about how we're supposed to function, and mothers are supposed to be the perfect example. It's just like the sickest bullshit you can project onto human beings. Like, put your own fucking mask on first. We learn that on every goddamn airplane flight, but we forget it when it comes to like real life, you know?
Yeah.
It also seems to be the reason that people are so quick to want to, be responsible for how we handle what we do with our body, with our mind. Like, I'm sitting here about that whole pelican thing. I didn't know that. And it's kind of like, damn.
Juan does the same thing. Like there's one of my in-laws has their family crest. The insignia on their ring is a swan, a mother swan, and she is ripping her heart out and feeding it to her babies. And you're talking, that's their family crest. So that's hundreds of years of that being put in their culture. For the Puerto Rican side of my family, my grandmother came when she found out that I had been born. She didn't know that I existed in the first place, but that's a whole other thing. When she found out, she caught the flight out here and she stayed for the first 3 years of my life. She was away from my grandfather. She was away from our family. She stayed with me and my mom, who was her ex-daughter-in-law.
Wow.
Because that is what Puerto Rican women do. My aunt has done it, and you feel it. Like there is a draw there to stay and to be everything for your kids, your grandkids. She was the help when she was younger, just so that she could give her children a better life. But it's all about family.
Wow.
And so for me to step in other areas, no, you're not. No, what are you doing?
I can't even imagine. I mentioned earlier my mother moved to Texas when she found out that I was having her grandson. I don't think it was, and to be clear, she had moved to Texas when she found out I was having a baby. I said, oh shit, I'm leaving. It's just.
I was going to say the way that's worded.
Yeah. It's just that she made the decision.
I'm out of here.
Texas. I know. She's like, I'm done with these grandkids. And that woman, I don't know how she does it. I think she has a total now of 14 grandkids.
Wow.
I think that's it. And she has a notepad and knows has all their names and dates in there. Always wishes them a happy birthday. Oh, my mom. I love my mom. I meant to give a shout out. She just turned 70 this past Monday. Yeah.
Wow.
So happy birthday to my mama. Like I did it on a show, Ma. Anyways, I hear stories about, mothers and grandmothers who come out to like help with the child, and they're kind of like horror stories because it's this whole sense more of the whole you must do it this way and this is how you're supposed to be as a mother, and it's never put in a way of, you know what, you don't need to take this suggestion, or you don't need to, like, when they're saying it, they're really saying you're doing it wrong, do it this way. So I didn't have that. I mean, often it was nice if I wanted to ask my mom a question, I can ask her. But I never had that really. I never had a relative who's like, okay, I'm coming to your house and I'm going to stay here for 3 years. Like I could not imagine.
Yeah.
Well, and like I have to ask, at what point do we get to start doing this differently, right? Like, because there's relatives who do show up, and friends who do show up, and who know how to support without being shitheads about it, and don't need to take it personally when you do something differently than they did it, and will look at it curiously and go, oh, I never thought of doing that, and how cool, and they want to figure it out with you. Like, how do we shift this is one of the questions I keep hearing, because we need the support. Like the notion that we can solo parent is just, it doesn't, I don't know.
It's right back to that whole
like, even when there's two people in a household trying to parent. What's that?
And it's interesting what BJ says here. I think that it's innate for most mothers. Protection, provide, the sun, the moon, the stars. I think it's ingrained. I feel like that's a thing that you're taught since you're a little kid. That's how you're supposed to be. When you're a mother, you're supposed to be that person.
But what would happen if we started giving little boys dolls to play with? I know what happened to me. I learned to care for the little beings.
World. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I still find it funny that that's a thing. How is that still, that there's still parents freaking out because a boy plays with a doll?
My son plays with dolls. He has dressed up in princess dresses, and his sister has put makeup on him, and they have had tea parties together.
Yep. It's still amazing to me that that's a thing. I'm like, when did imagination and exploring become, it must be done this way?
Right.
You must do it this way.
Yeah.
If you do it any other way, you're wrong.
Yeah, but then a lot of the other boys that he tries to go out and play with, like on our street, like, like pink is like, a 4-letter word to little boys that live in my neighborhood, like that's like the worst thing. Like one of the kids' moms was going to punish her son by putting a pink bike helmet on him. I was like, how is that? I had to bite my tongue on that one, and it was really fucking hard because I was just like, why? Why does it matter what color it is?
Because pink for so long, that is a female color. Boys do not associate with it.
And like at the beginning of the 20th century, end of the 19th century, it was the opposite.
Yeah.
Boys' color. And
they wore wigs. I mean, back in the days,
they have more makeup on than we do.
Yeah.
Blue was the girl's color because it was soft and it was subdued, and pink was, like bold. So that was the boys' color. And I don't know when that swap happened exactly, but
the one I seem to have always had a problem with is my kids are really open and affectionate. Like we were really affectionate with our kids. We would give them hugs. Mm-hmm. They have friends that would see the same thing. So that was an open thing. Relatives of mine, they weren't like that. They were very stern, and I swear they give a handshake goodnight before they would hug their kids. So when they started meeting some of their cousins, they kind of looked at them like, "What are you doing? Why are you touching me? What? No, we must shake hands. It was bizarre for them. So that was the one thing that we had to go through, was just like emotion versus being very straight and narrow and tough. So that was always interesting to me. So, what is the most tiring part of being a mother?
Other fucking people. Like, it's not even, here's the thing. I love my kids. Like, they have saved me more times than I can count, which should not have been the case, but they did. And so I am super grateful for them. I am very lucky that I have the kids I have. They're pretty good. I mean, they've gotten into some shit here and there, but it's not anything that's crazy or wild or, but it's everybody else. Mm-hmm. It's all the birds chirping. It's all the, you're doing it wrong. Why are you doing it that way? The looks in the damn store when your kid's having a meltdown.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that, please?
And I love when they sit there and tell you, you should just spank them. And I'm like, okay, first of all, they're not tantruming. They're having a meltdown. So those are two different things. And clearly you don't know the difference, but I do. Thank God, because I'm their mom. And we're going to leave the store. But yeah, can you shut your fucking mouth for a minute?
It's interesting that the idea,
I know who needs the spanking.
Yeah. Okay, I have to say, because I actually have had this discussion with my 19-year-old. Now, it's interesting, all the stuff you look back at, like, God, if I had to do it differently. So my mother was a disciplinarian when it came to the household, and she was not afraid to use anything in her arsenal. It was whatever was near that she would use to discipline. That's how we grew up. And I understood it. I mean, definitely, like, I learned not to disrespect my mother. I learned to listen to her. I learned. But at the same time, when me and my ex-husband started having children, we had the whole discussion of how we wanted to raise them. And I kind of was at the point that I was like, I understand why my mom did it, but I don't want to go to that extreme. But then it became that I really was leaning to that whole, oh, do we really have to beat them in order for it? Let's try another way. I had a conversation with my son and literally told him, there was one thing I would have done more of. I would have whooped your butt more than you got. Like, you got away with so much shit. And a lot of that is because I was fucking tired and I just didn't want to deal. But if I had the choice, I mean, I'm sorry, my kids looked out and said that there's all these other kids. I mean, God, I really should have spanked them more. I know there's gonna be people that disagree with me. I understand if you do, but I'm sorry. There were some kids, and I'm not talking about the mental state when it comes to, ADHD. There were some kids that just need a damn right smack down on their ass to get across that what they're doing needs to stop. Like, that's just how I feel. There needs to be more of that in this world. I feel like this generation is so, even seeing some kids now that is just such disrespect for their parents, and then looking at the parent and they're just like, I don't know what to do. I tried talking to them and, just sitting down and putting them in a corner and going, shh, and it just doesn't work. It's like how they speak to parents. Like, I heard one child call their mother a bitch, and I'm like, my brother did that once to my mom. She put him through a wall. Like, that is what the difference is from when I grew up to this generation now. Like, yeah. I feel like there is a lack of something, and I feel it's discipline.
I think for me, the most tiring thing that I worry about the most is, I see my son as this, he's like my little baby, right? But the world sees him as a 6'4" Black man, and he's 15. So I try to always stay on him on regular 15 or teens, right? Is, huh? Yeah. So,
Yep.
but you can't do that. And being out in the world, someone may see you as a man and they think you're just being disrespectful, like a man to man talking, like you're going to tell me, yeah, like he's 15. But they don't see that. They see 6'4". They see he has
Black, yeah.
a deep voice, and those are the things that scare me. And so the other part is kind of piggybacking a little on what Nikki's saying is the other people, right? And so how they raise their children. And like you're saying, Teresa, you see people who are very disrespectful to their parents. But that's something that I had to always correct Isaiah. Like I see and I know that your friend or any other people, well, he didn't really have friends that I knew of that were disrespectful to their parents. But John, Jim, Tony, and I don't know, Ronnie, if they're acting a certain way, that's something that you cannot do, Isaiah, because my biggest concern and my biggest worry is making sure that I have what I see as my little baby, but the world sees a 6'4" black man coming home. Like that's my number one concern. Is so you can't do what someone else does because, like Nikki was saying, how these other parents may or may not parent their children. You can't do that. Like you don't have that freedom of being disrespectful. You don't have that freedom, which you shouldn't, but you know what I mean? Talking back. Is there something that is frustrating you or someone treated you wrong? You come home. You let mom and dad know that and let us deal with that because like I said, I need you to come home. And so for me, that's one of my biggest worries day to day. And I think it's everyone's, right? Is our children in this world going out there. But for me, that's just, because I think we all see them as this cute little precious thing that came home with us, right? But you're like, oh, wait, the world sees you like that. Oh, got it. So
they just started learning that, especially my oldest. And sadly enough, because they're mixed race, my oldest thought he didn't have to worry about that because the world wouldn't they're not going to see him like straight black man. I'm like, dude, you are going to be seen as a black man. You may be lighter, but they're going to see you as a black man, period. Like, they're not going to care. They're not going to care what percentage of what is in you. They know what they see, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I am glad that, strangely enough, being in the homes of some of their friends, it was interesting seeing the dynamic because they would speak to their parents that way. But when they were in my house, they wouldn't. I don't know if that's because my kids would tell them like, my mom doesn't put up with this, so just don't. And oftentimes if they said something, I will say something. I'll be like, look, you may do that in your own home, but we don't do that here. And they get real quiet and it doesn't happen again. But yeah, I agree with you. The fear of watching them walk out the door and just hoping that they come back.
And teens know everything. So that's the other thing is he thinks I'm just telling him that to be a mean mom, right?
Oh, yeah.
You guys experience that and you're like, no. I mean, Liz, like you were saying, what happened with your little girl, I believe?
Yeah.
Right before the show. Like, these are the things that it's like, you're just going outside, being safe and playing. And now I have to worry.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, that's not what I wanted to be doing, 10 minutes before I was supposed to log on tonight.
Yeah.
Motherhood, yeah.
Worrying that, my kid is out there, getting punched in the face by other kids in my neighborhood, kids in the neighborhood that I don't even know.
Yeah.
And I think the most tiring part for me is just, navigating through the world and through other people's judgments and trying to raise them to know right from wrong. Cause man, my daughter tries so hard she's only 8. She just turned 8 last month and she already thinks she knows everything.
That sounds about right. That sounds right.
And just trying to instill that morality in them so that they will come home at the end of the day.
Then there's always those moments I went through where my kid, instead of getting beat up, was the bully.
Yeah.
And then it became a conversation of how it got there. And school became a difficult environment because when they were getting bullied, there was nothing being done about it. And I am a believer. When I was younger, I got into so many fights. I was just one to not put up with anybody putting their hands on me.
You had my back in one fight when we were younger.
Yeah. And then I got
really know me. She said I was her brother's friend, and that I was another friend of a friend.
You're hearing a side that I don't like sharing.
Talking shit to me, and she's like, "What's going on?" Like she was in it. And I don't know what happened after that.
Yes, the side that no one really hears a lot about. Yes, I got in a lot of fights. And it was never, because my dad raised me, you don't start a fight, but you better damn well finish it. So with that,
come home, I'm putting hands on you if you didn't.
Exactly. So pretty much my whole logic was when if somebody's gonna put, because I get arrested, if somebody's gonna put their hands on my child, and I'm not there, I would want my child to know, look, you need to defend yourself. It becomes about defense at a point. Like if the school doesn't take care of it, I would hope my child would defend himself. And many times, all of them went through it. All of them went through it and got either suspended or detention at times because of it. And they were like, well, we won't tolerate fighting. I said, well, what are you going to do about the bully? And there was never an answer to that. So I was like, that was a tiring period because it was just so frustrating that, they want the kids to understand they're about zero fighting and you can't put your hands on somebody. I'm like, what if they're putting your hand, like that is not real life. That's not, I feel like a lot of the days of being a parent is trying to teach them real life. And oftentimes some of the environments they're in is not doing that at all. So yeah, that gets really tiring. That gets extremely tiring.
I know.
I was going to say. So, next one. But yeah, go ahead, Liz. Go ahead, Liz, and ask the next question.
I know, Shay, you said that you worry about your son because, he's a, 6'4" big guy. And for me, I'm on the opposite end because I'm little and my kids are very little. My son is he's 6.5 years old and he's not even 40 pounds.
Yeah.
And he has ADHD and, and he's already dealing with shit from neighborhood kids, picking on him and bullying him. And, oh God, and because he is neurodivergent and they aren't on the same level as he is.
Yeah.
Because man, he is just off in his own little world. That one is. Really is, but he is going to be the different kid because he already is. And I worry about that. That keeps me up at night. And, it's getting to the point now where, well, actually his pediatrician prescribed for him to either get into a sport or put him into mixed martial arts classes. So that's what we're going to do with him really soon, because I do want, I want to do it for both of my kids because I want my daughter to be able to defend herself from the awful creeps that will be out in this world that will try to fuck with her.
Yeah.
They already have tried. And I want my son to, same thing, to be able to defend himself when somebody's picking on him. And, I don't want him to start the fight, but I want him to be able to finish it. And when it's done for the kid that started it to be able to say, well, I'm not going to fuck with him anymore. Ask.
Yep. So just some comments here. BJ wanted to point out Shay changed the narrative and did it gracefully. Aww. And he also wanted to know how that conversation went.
I'm going to assume the conversation of when I was telling Isaiah he can't do the things that I think, of course, I had to tell him at a very young age because first I'm from New Mexico, so there wasn't very many where we lived, which I loved my neighborhood, but there wasn't very many African Americans, and so he just didn't quite understand. So I had to just kind of first go by, forget everything else in the bucket, right? It's just like, this is what's right and this is what's not right, and this is what you have to do. You had to really break it down to the 6-year-old level, I guess you would say. However, the talk afterwards went well, but I found it was an essay or an article that was well written, and it was by a Caucasian woman who was like, or a black woman and a Caucasian woman. They were kind of like friends, right? Well, not kind of. They were friends, and it was like to I believe it was called. My friend sent it to me, but it was like to the parents of my son's white friends. And it was just really, it was a nice conversation to come to the table of like, if our kids are together and, a officer or anything, right, comes their way, can you just tell your son to also stay with my son? Because my son can't run like your son would run. Like I'm sure it's 2 kids, right? Being silly or whatever. Like my son can't run like your son can. And if you can just have those open discussions and conversations, it's like, would you be able to tell your child as well as like, just stay with him? And it's as well as my child as well. But anyway, that article was fabulous. And so I shared it around with a group of my friends, because we're like a mixture of mommies who came together that have very different backgrounds, and we had open dialogue with that. And I think that was the next step, that they were able to talk to their children as well. So Zaya, my son, and their children were kind of all on the same page of, this is what we are doing to do to just keep each other safe.
That's awesome. So, Teresa, you're muted.
I forgot I muted myself. Sorry, I would like that article. If you find it, I would like a copy of that article.
Yeah.
But I forgot. I was like, I'm gonna mute myself because it's starting to get loud in the house, and I'm waiting. I'm waiting for somebody to open this door and be like, hey, what you doing? Because that's how it is around here. Is Royce back? He just sent a message saying, sorry, driving through mountains, keep losing signal.
There he is.
There he is. So, the next question I was going to ask is, because it's something that I felt as I got older as a mother. I always knew I wanted to be a mother, but I think I underestimated, balancing of work, because I always wanted to have a career, work and having kids. So, do you believe that a woman can have it all? And why? Or why not?
Well, I'll go.
Okay.
I absolutely think they can. However, and it's a big if, right, is if they have that supportive village. So for me, I was very fortunate, going through a divorce, going into grad school, an accelerated program, and I was thinking I'm going to walk away. Like, there's no way I can do this full-time work, full-time grad school at night with I think Isaiah was 7 years old. Um, However, I had this amazing, beautiful village because my mom ran away to Georgia like your mom when I had my son. No, I'm just kidding. She didn't run away. But, I had Isaiah and he was 2 months and my mom moved across the country all the way to Georgia. And so I was in New Mexico and I'm going through a divorce. But the beauty of all of that is I had the most amazing village. But when I think about my village, it was people, my peers, like my cousins who were my age, that we're all like, we don't know what we're doing. We're going to figure it out together, And like, what you're not going to do is not continue to succeed. So I, I feel like, of course, there's compromise and things, but I felt like I was able to truly have it all. And whatever your all is, I'm not saying going and getting your master's degree or whatever that is, right? But it's whatever your all is. And so I think I know I was very fortunate for that. My cousin and I, she had a little boy, I had Isaiah, we're both single moms, and we decided to move in together. So now we were just taking shifts. And then my other cousin who didn't live with us was like, okay, I'm free on this day. Let me get the boys on this day. And the beauty, we all had boys. So they were like, here, just take them all. But I feel like, yes, but if you have that supportive village, I believe we can. And the village doesn't have to be blood. It could, it's who are you surrounding yourself with. So.
In fact, I think it's like blood. I don't want to say blood is automatically suspect, but I think the choice is vital. What I heard was this beautiful combination, Shay, that you mentioned, that you assembled deliberately from a variety of people and a variety of, anyway, just really beautiful, because it's all based on what y'all wanted and y'all needed with each other. I love that. That's so.
We succeed together. That's the thing, right? I gave my cousin, when I graduated, I printed her out an honorary master degree, because I could have done it with her. I had night school, right? And like, she was helping Isaiah with math and homework, and but we did it together. So
I like those stories. I feel like, God, I wish I had that more. Me and my ex-husband, I always knew there was going to be some form of a career. I just didn't know what direction, but I knew that whatever I chose was going to be a passion for myself, because I just didn't want a job. I wanted to make sure that anything I did, I loved, that I loved doing, that I was passionate about it. So we set up.
I also.
Oh, okay. What's up for you?
Sorry.
No.
Well, no, I'm chewing too. Sorry. I can never tell when I'm actually online and when I'm not. So, I think also, like, when I hear these stories, both from Shay and Teresa, what you were just mentioning, like, I just have to keep coming back to, for those of us who are when we're the breadwinners, and specifically, I'm gonna call out men here, because it is still more often than not, it's men who are not as connected with the emotional support and emotional reality that loving children minute by minute, we're just not as connected to that. And I think we as men have to step up, number one. Number two, we have to be open to redesigning our relationships and our time, because when it's only women working the second shift, like, men, we're missing out. That's precious time that we don't, like, we can whine all we want about the special connection that the mother has and all this bullshit. I call them bullshit. We can do that work too. And so it's about, how do we design a relationship, co-design a relationship. So, like, I love Shay's story because it doesn't necessarily have that gender dynamic to it, because they were just able to say, I need this, I can do that for you, and it's just this, like, mutuality. I want to shout out to men and to those of us who are the breadwinners in those roles. We can do that too. We just have to all be real about what we need and what we want and how we're going to love and support each other. So that's my rant, I think, for the day today.
I think that's what I learned, and when we built ours, because I always knew I was going to work. I always knew I was. So on our end, it turned out that we became each other's source. He stayed home with the kids because I knew I was going to be working more than he would. But unfortunately, that became, in a sense, abusive, because since he knew I would work, he never had to. And then it became that even though he was home with the kids, the term stay-at-home father became more like babysitter. So the one thing I learned, which I don't know if it's for everybody else, but the one thing I learned was there's never a real balance. There's never really a balance. There's always going to be a sacrifice somewhere. If you're doing really well in work, family's going to suffer. If you're doing really well with family, your work's going to suffer. So I think there was this point that I just realized, okay, just know this is going to suffer at some point. Something's going to suffer. Because, now talking to my kids, and now realizing myself, there were times that I just didn't have that connection with them because I was focused on work. And because of that, they didn't really have me there. There would be times I would be sitting at home in the same room with them and not really being there because I'm like, oh my God, I got to do this. I got to do this order. Oh, this event's coming up and I'm not really there. So now that they're older.
And if I don't do this, you don't have a roof over your head. So
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, when it got to the point that I was the sole breadwinner, it just made it worse. It made it worse. And then you have the guilt of your spouse who's telling you, well, you're never here and we don't spend time together and we don't do, and I'm just like, and my day would be working 8 hours to come home to a messy house and try to figure out what dinner is because they didn't. So I think that learning sacrifice was what I learned. But so hearing Shay's story, I'm just like, damn, I wish I had that. I really didn't start having that until like 3 years ago. That's when it finally happened. Is that I was like, you know what? I really need to look at who I'm surrounding myself with. So there was people in and out, like certain people, but now it's kind of like I'm surrounding myself with people that know where I'm at. They know my story. They know my family, and they're there. They're like, we got your back regardless if you're blood or not. So that's been nice to have.
And support too. I think, you know, as I'm listening, like, you know, when I'm the homemaker, I have to reach out for support and I have to make space for support. And there's sometimes when we can't, you know, as we've all pointed out, like, I think there's just a lot there. It's complex shit. There's a reason this isn't easy, I guess.
I think it's that whole thing of also learning to ask for help. But I mean, that's why this whole topic was here. It's like, as a mom, no, you just need to know you got to do it. So just do it. And asking for help is like one of the hardest things to do. Yep. And there's still days. Yeah. And there's still days that I find myself like, okay, I really need help with this. But if I say it out loud, it's bad. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That mom guilt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shit is real. Yes. It's hard. And the whole, you know, asking for help. And I can remember like I was losing my shit, like breaking to the point where, you know, I was suicidal. I was lost. And every time I would even get to the point to ask for help because of whatever past stuff had gone on in my life, I was already conditioned to, if I ask for help, I'm going to owe somebody something.
Yep.
And it's going to be bigger than the help that I'm going to receive. So I might as well do it my own damn self. And, you know, and eventually I had to get to the point where, you have to surround yourself with the right people, with the people who aren't going to judge you, who aren't going to, you know, make you feel bad for asking for help.
And not use it against you at a later date. Like it's currency. It's like, okay, well, I'll be totaling up how much I've helped you to use it later.
Like that, it doesn't work that way. And, you know, that shift, it took a while to get to the point where I would ask people, and I had to learn where to ask for help. You know, I had to learn who was really going to help me, because I loved when people would tell me, oh my gosh, I don't know how you do it. You know, you have epilepsy, and you take care of these kids, and you're a single mom now, and you find all the things, and I couldn't have done that when I was your age, and I don't know.
I'm just going to keep stacking the pedestal so you can fall off it.
Yep.
And they'd be like, and, you know, and so then one time I had a seizure in front of this person, and they waited for the seizure to pass, but there is a period of afterward, I'm not okay. You have to stay with me. Like, I have to have someone with me. And they left me and my kids there.
Wow.
Because they had to get going. They had stuff to do. And so it was like,
How nice of you. Like,
but then they
thanks.
would turn around and say, you don't ask for help. Why are you so tired? Why are you so moody? Why are you so snappy at everybody? Why are you just need medication for that? No, no. And then why didn't you show up for work? Why didn't you show up for this thing? We had this family thing and we had this. And I'm like, I can't be everywhere and do everything. I know y'all think that you put that superwoman label on me, and I don't even like Superwoman. She's not even my favorite fucking superhero in the first damn place. I like Harley Quinn, and you know why? Because that bitch is
Oh my God.
So stop putting that other bitch that I can't even be. Like, I don't have a lasso of truth. I have a lasso of on your bullshit, but that's right.
Oh, my side.
I've got a big ass jumper hammer, and you're gonna catch it.
Oh, I'm like, you're gonna catch some hands. Yeah.
All right, well, we got to wrap here.
We do.
Somebody take us out. Liz, you haven't talked yet. Take us out good.
Yeah, Liz, what you gonna say? And honestly, I was gonna ask, the last question I was gonna ask was, what piece of advice would you give a soon-to-be mom or a new mom of real truth?
Of real truth.
Yeah.
Okay, I have two things for a soon-to-be mom. First of all, when you're giving birth, there will be poop. Accept it.
Facts.
The nurses are so good about it, but it's gonna happen. It will happen both times with me. And just the other piece of advice would be, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid of other people and their judgments, because there will be judgments always. You know, I mean, that's a huge part of what we've talked about here. And just, you know, and get help if you need it. You know, don't be afraid to reach out and to ask for it, and to demand it, to scream it if you have to. Because we all need it.
Absolutely. Nikki?
So the things I tell my nieces when they're pregnant, I say, okay, so when you're awake now, when you take a nap, and when you're awake now during your pregnancy and you feel baby awake, those are going to be feeding times. So pay attention to that shit. Because I swear it's like clockwork. Just pay attention to your body. And listen to yourself. Listen to your own intuition. If it's negative shit that's coming into you, that's everybody else. That is not your voice. That is not you. You have an inner voice that is connected to your soul. That is your intuition, and it never fucking lies to you. So when you just know it, trust it.
Ooh, and don't lose it.
Yeah.
Don't lose it. All right, Shane, what about you?
So it's funny that Nikki was just talking about the cape, because that's so my two things were, one is, don't ever compare your journey to someone else's, which I mean, no matter what stage, but definitely in the beginning, like don't compare it. Like, we're all different, uniquely and wonderfully made, fearfully and wonderfully made. So don't compare it, right? And secondly is, it's funny, Nikki, I got to send you my answer, because this is what I was going to say, is, everyone says, "Oh my gosh, you're so strong." And I was just talking to a friend who is amazing, and she was saying, and I'm sorry to my mother-in-laws and my mom who are on for saying this, but she was just like, "Stop fucking telling me that. I am not." However, they all ha ha, and they would keep saying it. And I think that's when we then stop asking for help, is because you feel like, now I'm probably weak, or people are going to think I'm not as strong, which is what I've been trying to tell you. However, it's just like, you just kind of take it. And it's kind of demeaning in a way. It's because it's this mind fuck that you're like, well, everyone else is seeing me be so strong, but I don't feel this strong. And also, you don't have the safe space to be vulnerable. So, yeah.
Look, Royce, she used our word. She used our word, vulnerability.
I'm pretty sure I owe you coffee.
Take that. I love coffee.
Here's my two things. I'd say fuck advice. I mean, really, what are you asking a guy for advice for anyway? And the second thing is, what's exciting you? Like, what makes you happy? It's a question. Like, I feel like that's what there's these inundations, like as you guys have all said, there's all this information that gets dumped at you, all these expectations that get just fire hosed at you, like, and to turn inward and be able to ask, what's exciting to me right now? Man, this little fucker's kicking my kidney. I'm just really glad I can go to the bathroom, like whatever that is. Yay. Like, because that, I don't know, that's all I have to offer. Teresa, take us home.
Well, I like everybody's pieces of advice, and especially the intuition one, because there was a whole 2 years that I lost it, and it caused fear of not doing anything. So if I had to give two pieces of advice, one is don't let anybody tell you that motherhood is the end all be all. You are more than just a mom. There are many facets to you. If you want to do other things in your life, you are capable of doing so. Do not limit yourself to being defined as one thing and being put in a box. You have the ability to be whatever you want to be. So don't be afraid to be that, because you're also a mother too. You're still capable of doing stuff. So that's the one piece of advice. And yeah, I kind of have to piggyback on Shay's. It's like, or Nikki's thing is just intuition. Do not question yourself. If you're feeling something, like, take that feeling in. Know that what you're feeling is valid, and you need to really consider it. So those would be my two things. Woo! There wasn't a lot of cursing tonight. I'm surprised.
I got to give a shout out to Sarah. Thank you to Sarah for driving while on the show. Thank you, partners.
Oh, goodness. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
Nikki, Shay, Liz, you were great and honest. And I think we need to hear more of that as mothers, talking with other mothers. We should not be afraid to be vulnerable. That should be one of our strongest traits. And we can't really learn about experiences if we're afraid to talk about them. So thank you for coming out tonight and sharing yours. So I
was like, but in the like breaks, I was always amazed at how even amongst our guests, y'all were talking about different things sometimes, maybe even differing opinions, but y'all didn't need to crap on each other to do it. And I just love that model for how we support each other, because all four of you chose different ways of mothering in some aspects, but you all sat here together and said, and we can be in relationship anyway. I just thank you all for coming on, for like letting fly, and for being vulnerable that way. I appreciate it.
Woo-wee. This is fun. I'm so glad we did this. So thank you everyone for tuning in tonight to Where's Your Heart. Yeah, we ran long on this one. I knew that was going to happen, so deal with it. So we'll be back next Monday. And Royce will actually be in a chair somewhere. Not on the road. Say goodnight, Royce.
Good night, Royce.
Where in the world is Royce?